What's up, guys? I'm Heath with Forged America. I'm back with some leather making tips, specifically one particular leather making tip for a young man named Chris. I assume Chris is starting up a leather business or thinking about starting up a leather business, and he's inquiring about a few things that I'm inclined to help him out with. But before we get started, let me give a shout out to the sponsors. ForgedLeather.com. Check them out, ForgedLeather.com. All of our leather creations are at ForgedLeather.com, and BillyRays.org, home of the world's finest hot sauce. Now, with no further ado, let me get into this. So Chris asked a question. I'm a newbie to leather, and I'm looking for an inexpensive way to take my leather to the next level without pouring a ton of money into it. All right, Chris, that's a really good question. I get questions all the time about, how I got started, what got me started, and how I stayed in it. This one's a good one for me because I remember the day I looked at my leather and said, you just upped your game. And what I did was I bought an edger and a beveler. This is a Craft Tool Pro. To me, this is one of the better edgers out there. This is a 0. It works really well on my 6 to 7 ounce leather. I could probably go a little bit bigger. Different sizes of the Craft Tool Pro, and any edger for that matter, will depend on what weight leather you have. I like using this one because it gives me a small cut on the edge. It doesn't give me a huge. I don't want it rounded off too much, and this one seems to do the right job for me. Now, edging leather is something that is not as easy as it looks when you start, but it doesn't take you a long time to get it right. Initially, what I wanted to do was, as I was edging it, as I started, I was like gouging it, digging in too deep, only making cuts about 2 to 3 inches. What you want to do is you want to be able to have a long, smooth stroke on your cut. You want it to go all the way down the edge. You want it to go slice all the way down, peeling off this sharpened corner edge that we have on here. Do all sides, do the back as well. That right there, that's a game changer, man. That's what makes the leather look so much more professional. Just that in itself makes the leather look like it's been done in a professional shop. It takes off that cheap looking edge. That's one thing that makes leather, in my opinion, look cheap, is the edge that's not finished, that hasn't been finished. Now, you're not done. A beveler is the next tool that you're going to need in conjunction with your edger. What you're going to do is, once you've finished edging all sides and the bottom, you're going to take your beveler, and the bevelers come with different notches inside of them here. These notches are for the different weight leather. After you've finished, you can coat the edge of your leather with different materials, gum trag, other things, other chemicals. You can also just use water. I use water, and after you've edged it out, you basically just take your beveler, you find the right notch, and you just steady back and forth, building up a little bit of friction. Gives you a nice glassy, glossy edge. Really smooth. I also recommend, before the beveling process, I do need to make a note of this. Let me make one side note here. You also are going to need a fine grit sanding block. You don't have to do this step. I recommend doing it because it makes for a much smoother edge. Before you bevel it, go along the edge and sand the edge with the sanding block. You don't want to make it scruffy, but that's why I recommend at least a 320 or higher sanding block. Go along the edge, knock off any roughness that might be on the edge of your leather, then wet your leather on the sides, take your beveling tool, go right along the edge. This is going to make for a really smooth, professional looking edge. Always do these steps before you dye your leather. This is something you do before you dye, because if you do it after you dye your leather, what you're going to do is, when you take the edge off, it's going to go right back to this color, because this color is going to remain underneath the dye or the paint, or however you do it. There's one other tool that you can use after I don't recommend getting it until after you've kind of gotten comfortable with your beveler, and it's a Dremel tool. You can buy you a Dremel, go to the hardware store. Any of your hardware stores will carry a Dremel. I don't use the biggest one they have. I actually use the smallest size power that they have, and I bought you can buy a beveler attachment. It's just a Dremel beveler attachment that you can get for it. Put it in. It really does a good job. It's done a good job for me. I use it on a lot of my wallets to edge out my wallets. I'm going to do another video on how this thin wallet leather, how thin it is. I'm going to do another video soon because the edgers don't seem to take off the edge real good because it's so thin. You're talking about a 2 to 3 ounce leather there. I'm going to show you how to do that in another video. That's down the line though. The Dremel is pretty inexpensive. You can get one for 60, 70 bucks. The Dremel tool that goes into it, the beveling tool, I want to say I paid around $40 for it. If you want, you're going to have to spend a little bit of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a ton of money if you really, really, really want to make your leather look next level. Not to mention the fact you can actually sell your products for more and get better reviews. One of the biggest reviews I get is on our stitch work and our edges. People love our edges. On our website, when you look at the reviews, one of the biggest compliments we get is the edge of the leather, how it's not cheap looking. It's amazing what this piece right here, with the edge knocked off and the edge on, the difference in how it looks. It's just incredible. But yeah, so you can go on and get your Dremel with your edger, with your beveling tip. I recommend getting this first to see how you like it. I paid $20 for this. The Craft Tool Pro is a little more expensive than the other edgers out there. I still recommend getting this, not because I'm not supported in any way by Craft Tool or anything else. It's just a higher quality edger. The others I've had really didn't do a great job for me. I've had others, I won't go into names, but they just weren't great. So that's how you really, really take your game up. That's going to make your leather look more professional. You're going to get more views on your website, festivals, whatever you do. People are going to, one of the first things people are going to do when they pick it up, they're going to feel that thing. People love to feel it. They're going to do two things. They're going to feel it and they're going to smell it. Two things people love to do is smell leather and feel leather. It just feels good, and when it's done right, it feels great. All right, guys, so there it is. Hope you guys liked it. Hope you learned something from it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time we go live or put up a new video. Check out the links below for billyrays.org and forgeleather.com. Till next time, guys, I'm out.